Here's what's happening this week in Conservative Canada. This is our special Back to School edition. Weaponizing intolerance, Justin Trudeau talks about rising levels of hate, while Conservatives talk about parents' rights. Shopping for school supplies as pens and pencils get more expensive, Pierre Poilievre has a special present for Justin Trudeau. Keeping parents in the loop from Ontario to New Brunswick and across the prairies, Conservative governments say mom and dad have the right to know what's going on at their children's school. Justin Trudeau takes the stage at Edmonton's Pride Festival. Trudeau says people are weaponizing intolerance as Conservatives stand up for parents' rights to know what's happening in their children's classrooms.
And increasingly, we're seeing people weaponizing intolerance for political gain. Shame!
Pierre Poilievre says it's parents, not the government, who should decide how their children are raised.
My view is that parents should be the final authority on the values and the lessons that are taught to children. I believe in parental rights, and parental rights come before the government's rights.
In Edmonton, Trudeau claimed that many kinds of hatred are getting worse in Canada.
And yet here we are, where to us LGBTQI+ hatred is on the rise, transphobia is on the rise, homophobia, biphobia on the rise.
Trudeau's statement in Edmonton followed an equally unusual conversation in Calgary with a Muslim father. That conversation was captured on mobile phone and broadcast on social media. In Calgary, Trudeau told a Muslim father that there are people on the far right who are against the Muslim community, and he used the word weaponizing once again.
These are people on the far right who have consistently stood against Muslim rights in the Muslim community. But they are weaponizing the issue of LGBT, which is something that, yes, Islam has strong opinions on. The same way that the religious right in Canada, the Christian right, has strong opinions against as well. They're using those fears to drive a wedge between a government that will always stand up for all your rights, just like I will always stand up for the rights of LGBT kids, including if they're LGBT Muslim kids.
Trudeau refers in the discussion to the LGBT Muslim kids, children who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgendered, as well as Muslim. In his speech at the Edmonton Pride Festival, Trudeau referred to 2S LGBTQIA+ kids.
We're standing up for trans rights across the country. We're supporting 2S LGBTQI+ kids across the country. We're on a track where the arc of the moral universe is supposed to be bending towards justice.
Trudeau uses the term 2S LGBTIA+ kids here to describe kids who are two-spirited, lesbian, gay, transgendered, queer, intersex, or asexual. The plus at the end refers to all other genders and sexualities that kids might choose to identify themselves with. In Calgary, Trudeau gets some pushback from the Muslim father who asks about a teacher in Edmonton who ranted at the children in her classroom who did not want to participate in Pride events.
Now, if you look at the various curriculums, you'll see that there is not what is being said out there about aggressive teaching or conversion of kids to being LGBT. That is something that is being weaponized by people who are not doing it because of their interest in supporting the Muslim community.
And we appreciate that very much, Mr. Prime Minister. But probably a perfect example is what we saw in one of the Edmonton schools, when one of the teachers, she threatened and she told those kids, you are not a Canadian and you should leave Canada because you did not participate in Pride.
An audio recording from Edmonton's Londonderry Middle School does indeed show the teacher telling Muslim students that they don't belong in Canada.
You are out to lunch. If you think it's acceptable to not show up because you think if there's some pride activities going on at school, it goes two ways. If you want to be respected for who you are, if you don't want to suffer prejudice for your religion, your color of skin, your whatever, then you better give it back to people who are different from you. And it isn't like that in all countries. As I told you, in Uganda, literally, if they think you're gay, they will execute you. If you believe that kind of thing, then you don't belong here. Because that is not what Canada believes. We believe in freedom. We believe that people can marry whomever they want. That is in the law. And if you don't think that should be the law, you can't be Canadian. You don't belong here. And I mean it. I really mean it. And it's not a joke, Mansour.
Pierre Poilievre says it's up to parents, not the government, to raise their children according to their own values.
And we're going to bring home our freedom again. The freedom of people to raise their kids with their own values. Justin Trudeau recently butted his nose into our school system. He tried to attack New Brunswick for its policy on allowing parents to be informed when the school is changing the gender pronoun of the kids. I believe parents should have the freedom to raise their kids with their own values. It's not the right of the Prime Minister. That's right. The Prime Minister does not have the authority to dictate to our provinces and our schools. Our parents should be parents and our kids should be kids, and Prime Minister Trudeau should not be forcing his liberal values on those families. His divisive rhetoric, you've seen where it leads. His divisive rhetoric led to a school teacher saying to a young Muslim boy that he doesn't belong in Canada simply because he does not accept liberal values when it comes to family and sexuality. I believe every Canadian should have the right to teach their kids their own values. That mosques, churches, and synagogues should have the right to pass on their values to their followers without any interference from the government or the state. Parents have rights. Parents should pass those rights on to their kids.
Back to school, Pierre Poilievre tallies up all the extra costs students are facing as the new year begins.
27% of students say they will spend less on school supplies this year compared with previous years due to inflation, while 20% said they had plans to purchase or buy back-to-school items secondhand. That was from CBC. Globe and Mail reports a survey by the Retail Council of Canada found that about 74% of back-to-school shoppers plan to spend more than $50 more this year. Experts expect that more shoppers are going to look for savings because they have no other choice, reports the Globe and Mail. So this is life for our children after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. His decisions have had consequences. That money that he said was free, well, it's not free, it turns out. It all came with a cost.
Pierre Poilievre had a special back-to-school present for Justin Trudeau.
And so, as Parliament gets its back-to-school moment coming, I have a little donation to make to the Prime Minister. It is a calculator to help him calculate the cost he is imposing because of his inflationary deficits and carbon taxes. The more he spends, the more things cost. It is time that Justin Trudeau got a calculator and found out how to work it, because right now he's just not worth the cost.
In New Brunswick, Pierre Poilievre tells Justin Trudeau to butt out of the province's decision to keep parents informed when their children change their names or change their gender pronouns at school.
For Global News, do you stand with Premier Blaine Higgs on Policy 713?
Look, this is a provincial policy. I know that Justin Trudeau has butted into that. The Prime Minister has no business in decisions that should rest with provinces and parents. So my message to Justin Trudeau is butt out and let provinces run schools and let parents raise kids.
A survey by Leger Research shows 69% voters in Atlantic Canada agree with New Brunswick Premier Blaine Higgs that when a student wants to change their gender or have a new gender pronouns, schools should have to let the children's parents know to ensure that they are aware of what's happening. That didn't stop Justin Trudeau from attacking the Premier at a Toronto gay pride event.
Right now, trans kids in New Brunswick are being told they don't have the right to be their true selves, that they need to ask permission. Well, trans kids need to feel safe, not targeted by politicians. We have to stand against this. We have to stand up for the freedoms we believe in and continue our work of letting love be louder than hate.
New Brunswick Premier went on CBC to explain his decision to keep parents informed about their children's choices at school.
That is all this is finding the right path, and that is the big challenge. I don't think anyone would disagree with the philosophy that parents should have a role, but the time has to be right for the student, and that's the goal, is finding that right time, but not purposely, going on for, let's say, months or years with the parents totally outside of the loop.
You used some language yesterday in the legislature because they're upset with you. Why are you making these changes now, Premier?
Well, Rosemary, it is a difficult discussion, and I don't underestimate that a little bit. What we're hearing certainly are parents learning more about the policy and wanting to know more and wanting to play a role in their children's education. And I don't think that's anything that should be unexpected in the sense that parents, want that responsibility. And that's what's brought this all kind of to a head, is that more parents have learned about a policy that is in place within our school system. And wondering how there could be a policy that would actually hide information from them. And I appreciate, that not all parents' situation and children's situation are the same at home. Yeah. But the policy's fundamental shouldn't kind of rule out all parents. So we're trying to find a path forward to protect the children and to involve the parents when the time is right and have the right people engaged in that process.
The CBC's Rosemary Barton pressed the Premier, but he held his ground.
Sure, but I guess I'm wondering, Premier, if your personal views are influencing your policy decisions, because it sounds like they are.
No, Rosemary, it's not my personal views at all. It's about a role as a parent and a grandparent, and thinking about my grandchildren now that would be attending school, and the fact that her parents would not know what she was being taught or what information was being supplied.
And the Premier also sent a message to Justin Trudeau.
We need to get better as a society. It does not help that the Prime Minister kind of calls me out and takes a hard line against parents. That's not helpful.
Premier Higgs, thank you. We'll leave it there, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Rosemary. Take care.
Ontario Education Minister Stephen Lecce is clear parents need to be involved if their child wants to change their name or their gender identity.
Parents, must be fully involved and fully aware of what's happening in the life of their children. I mean, often there are health implications, and I think we have to respect the rights of parents, recognizing that these can be life-changing decisions. And I think parents want to be involved so that they can support their kids. And I think that's a really important principle.
The minister emphasized that parents have the right to know.
We're simply making clear as a province that we believe parents should be fully involved, fully aware of what's happening to their children. And these are significant changes, and they have a right to know. And so we would expect school boards to be transparent with parents, as we always have.
Activists accuse the minister of putting children at risk of homelessness by outing them to their mothers and fathers. But Ontario's Conservative government is sticking to its position. In Saskatchewan, Premier Scott Moe named a new education minister. The Premier and the Minister, Jeremy Cockerill, made it clear children under 16 need their parents' consent to change their name or their gender identity at school. Parents also need to be informed and agree to their child's participation in school sex education.
We need to support all students that are in our education system. This policy, by its very design, is designed to include parents in their child's education, and include parents in their child's school. What can be, more supportive than bringing parents closer to what is happening in their schools? And as a government, I say when we have the opportunity to look at a policy that is going to bring families closer together in this respect, in their education, we need to look at that and look at that seriously. And you're seeing other governments across the nation do the same.
Education Minister Cockerill, the MLA for the Battleford, said parents want to be included in their children's education.
Why are we getting national attention on this policy? Well, it's because there's broad support across the country for this policy around parental rights and inclusion. And so, you know, that's we welcome that because we, again, as a government, believe that parents should be at the center of education.
Heading into a provincial general election, Manitoba Premier Heather Stefanson announced new policies to give parents a bigger say in their children's education.
We have heard loud and clear from parents that they worry about losing touch with what matters most for their children, what they're learning, how they're feeling, and if they're struggling.
The Manitoba Conservatives will enact changes in the Public Schools Act to ensure that parents are involved in addressing bullying and behavioral changes. Parents will also need to be notified about the changes to the curriculum and classroom presentations from people outside the school system. And they will need to sign off before their child's image is shared with anyone. Manitoba NDP leader Wab Kinew used an over-the-top racial term from the American Deep South, dog whistle, to criticize the PCs.
Heather Stefanson and the PCs are trying to divide Manitobans. In this case, they're very clearly blowing a dog whistle about LGBTQ folks.
Wab Kinew and the NDP have recently been losing ground in the polls to Premier Stefanson's resurgent progressive Conservatives. And that's it for this week. Make sure to like and subscribe to our page and sign up for our free email updates and stay in the know with what's happening in Conservative Canada.